So about probably a week later, I'm having lunch with a friend of mine, and his name's Barry Edelman. He's my oldest friend, probably since we were 10. So 50 plus years he and I have been friends. And we were talking about Verdot and the Orthodox Jew who gave money. And we just got into this discussion, and we both we decided we're going to do this. We're going to try something really unique. And Barry and I discussed it, and we decided that coming week we were going to both hold a corporate meeting. I have about 30 employees, Barry had 19, and we were going to show them the video, the YouTube video of the Verdot, the story of Ted Gupp, the whole thing that happened in Canton. And at the end of the meeting, we're going to hand out envelopes. And in each envelope, there's going to be a $100 bill. And we're going to ask our employees to find someone worse off than them to give the 100 to. And then we're going to give them 3 rules. 1, find someone worse off to give it to. 2, Monday morning, and this was Friday afternoon, we expect you to come back in at 9 o'clock and tell us who you gave it to, why you gave it to, and what happened. And then the third thing was, please keep this anonymous. We're not looking for fame and glory out of this. We just wanted to do something in the nature of Verdot. Also, while this is going on, because of the story on CBS, very interestingly enough, Verdot got started again. And three people from Canton anonymously donated $15,000, $5,000 apiece, and started the Verdot Fund. And because of the CBS show, and because of all the press this was getting, money started flowing in from all over the country. As did letters for requesting $100, which is what they were offering, $100 to anyone who was in need and could write a good letter. In fact, they were having so many letters, they ended up getting a minister, a rabbi, and a priest to come in and sort the letters out and decide who really should get this money. And they raised $65,000 and handed out $65,000 doing Verdot. Again, no one knew who these people were. They kept it very anonymous. Well, the same time they're doing that, Barry and I put our people on the street handing out money. And Monday morning comes along, and what I learned was just amazing. It was probably one of the more interesting things that had happened in my career. And really, I made 2 mistakes, and I had one very large surprise. And 2 mistakes were quite simple. Number 1, I didn't film it. Number 2, I did not have enough Kleenex. And the surprise was I didn't anticipate what this would do inside my company culture, the team building, and all the stuff that was going to happen with my employees, the way they were going to relate to each other. So, what happens? Well, we put 30 ambassadors on the street who came out. So what we did is we meet here, and I started calling on employees. And I asked them who they gave their money to and what happened. And stories were incredible. I can give you a couple really good stories. One of my favorite stories was one of my employees knew a grocer who actually also has a little dining room, and he normally over Christmas gives away free meals. But with the recession and everything that happened to him, he had had a horrible year, and he was not in a position to do that. So she took my $100, matched my 100 with hers, and sent it down to him and said, cook as much as you can cook, do whatever you can, here's $200 to help you on your mission. It turned out that he, we found out later, cooked 50 meals with our money and handed out to people who needed a meal. I thought that was cool. Secondly, I had another employee went home and had family meetings. Oh, it was amazing. People would go home and talk to their family. They would get their kids involved. They would match it, and they would have discussions. They would drive around Canton looking for people to give this to. It was just the results of what they told me were pretty interesting. Another one of my favorite stories is one of my employees. She and her daughter went to Walmart, and they decided that would be a good place to find someone. So they started stalking people in Walmart. literally. And they found an 18-year-old, they thought 18, 19-year-old, very young girl who was with a baby, and she had a cart, and she kept looking at things, checking the price, and then putting them back on the shelf because she clearly couldn't afford them in their mind. And that's who they decided they were going to follow. So they followed her, and every time she would pick up something and put it back, they would pick it up, put it in their cart. So the young girl gets to the checkout counter, checks out with her 3 items, and the daughter, Michaela, comes up behind her and says, "Excuse me, we were kind of watching you, and we decided that we were going to buy some things for you. And we've already bought these and paid for them here." And she pushed the cart over to the lady and said, "These are yours too." Lady was floored, obviously, and said, "I can't take that." And Michaela said, "No, you really have to, because we already paid for it and they're not going to take it back, so have a Merry Christmas." Love that story. Another story. One of my employees, the evening we did it, Friday night, she was driving home and she had to stop at the drugstore to get a script for herself. And she walks in the drugstore and there's a line of people waiting for their pharmacy. And there's a young girl who had a McDonald's uniform on, and she had a baby on her shoulder, and the baby was screaming, just upset. And my employee Peggy thought the script was probably for the baby, and the baby wasn't feeling good. She wasn't sure, but baby was very unhappy. And she was in line behind her probably the better part of a half hour. When the mother finally got up to the counter, and the baby hadn't calmed down at all, she gets her script, and Peggy threw down a $100 bill. Said, "I'll pay for this." And the young girl turned around and says, "What are you doing?" She said, "Well, my boss told me to give this to someone that looked like they could use some help, and I think you could use some help tonight." So she ended up buying her script for her and then talking to her. And then the baby, actually she held the baby stopped crying, the store was much happier, and the lady was floored. And then Peggy went out and waited for the bus. She didn't have a car, so she was waiting for a bus, and Peggy just sat and talked to her until the bus came. Those are some of the things that happened. Another thing happened, though, that I wasn't really very happy with right away, and that is that after we made the announcement on Friday, one of my employees immediately went upstairs and put this on Facebook, which totally killed my whole anonymous thing. And next thing I know, it's no longer anonymous. And that was good and bad. I was not happy, I got to be honest with you. But then I found out that 300 people knew about this, and 30 had agreed to meet at a shopping mall south of Canton, and they were going to become angels on the street. And they each brought $100, and they met on Saturday, and they handed out $3,000 went on the street. That made me feel much better. And then I decided, wait a minute, this shouldn't be anonymous. This should be out in the public. Maybe we could really do something with this. So Barry and I discussed it, and we decided to tell some other companies. And Barry had very similar experiences to mine. Great stories. Anyway, when it was all over and done, $25,000 hit the street because of what we did. And thus we came up with the name With Angels on the Street, and that was year 1. In year 2, year 3, it's progressed, and it's moved around the country. It's now in Columbus, it's in Asheville, North Carolina, it's in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and it's in surrounding cities of our area. It's really traveled. It's down in Florida. A friend of mine did it down there. It's been very interesting to see, and we figure last year we put about 40,000 on the street. Same thing. And it's just been a phenomenal experience. So the thing that's interesting about it is that a few things happened that I just didn't expect at all. The accomplishments are pretty interesting. Number one, I put 30 ambassadors on the street really looking for charities of their own or people of their own to help people that I would never have touched. And I think that's really cool. The second thing happened is that we built a really charitable culture inside this organization. By doing what we did and everybody got involved, everybody was engaged, it really changed the mindset of the people who work in my company. The third thing that happened is it made a huge difference on intercompany relationships. I mean, not that they didn't get along before, but people started getting along much better. And they had a much better understanding of who they were, what they were all about. And it really tightened up the organization. In fact, I would say from a harmonious standpoint, we've been in the best shape we've ever been as far as our employees getting along with each other. And I really think this had a lot to do with it. Of course, the benefit to the people who received the money, I don't even know what that number is or what happened or how that could even quantitate that, but it's pretty impressive. I know that we've gotten some letters from people who found out it was us, and letters were quite remarkable, life-changing in some cases, which I didn't expect. And then the last thing is, it really changed client perceptions of who we are as an organization and how we operate and what we're all about. And I just didn't expect any of that to occur. So that was one way I differentiated myself. Angels on the Street.